just completed the Nightdale Sprint Triathlon, and it was a really awesome change of pace for me, a literal change of pace for me, because the vast majority of my training has been super long and slow. It hasn't really been just super fast paced and really, I guess, just full throttle for any length of time. So this was the opposite of what I've been doing for the majority of my stuff, and it was a blast. So we had a ton of fun. It was just all out, red-lined, full sprint for just under an hour, and it was a ton of fun. I'm gonna go over a little recap here and just break down the day. It was fantastic. So I will probably be competing in some more of these just because I had such a good time doing it. It was such a fun time. So definitely think I'll be looking at some more sprints because, like I said, this was a ton of fun. Something that you could get into without having any training or any serious training. You could jump right in and it would be phenomenal. So this was the Nightdale Sprint Triathlon. It was July 13th, 2025. So recording this on Tuesday the 15th. So this was earlier this week. That was this Sunday. We woke up super early that morning. I woke up around 4 o'clock, and my wife came. She actually filmed she was the one filming a lot of this. We woke up and got some breakfast. I'm pretty sure all I did was oatmeal and some fruit and stuff, just some super simple stuff. And so I had a super good breakfast. We made our way to the health center where they were doing this race, where we had to get there fairly early before the race didn't actually start until I believe 7 a.m. But we had to get there really early because we had to get checked in. I had to get body markings. I had to get my bib. I had to get reseated because they seated my swim time wrong and all that good stuff. Obviously, then I had to get my bike checked into transition and all that good stuff. So we got there. I got there super early, met up with my coworker, and we made our way over and started to get checked in. I got my body markings, and we had to get checked in, got our bib, got my number and stuff, and then I had to make my way over to the lady that does the seeding, the swim time seeds. And for some reason, I think because I checked in, because I signed up really late, they had me seated almost at the very back, and I knew that wasn't the case because it was very unlikely to me that everybody was going to be swimming at around a minute 30 per 200 pace for this race. Even though it was a super short swim, I still didn't assume that the 200-ish people that were swimming were going to be swimming under a minute 30 or around a minute 30 per 100 yards. So I reseated myself. I told them what I needed. They reseated me. They told me, hey, yeah, get around X spot. So once I figured that out, I went and I set my bike stuff up. This was my first race using my new Aero helmet, so I got it set up and I made sure it was doing well. The Aero helmet, I've got to figure some stuff out. We'll talk about that here in just a minute, though. It was so I got all my stuff set up. I only had one bottle of nutrition / electrolytes because I knew it was only going to be about an hour, so I figured one bottle through the bike ride would be enough, which I think it was. Really, I mean, like I said, it was 1 hour, so really halfway through, I just, during the bike ride, I finished that whole bottle that was it was the Aero bottle on my bike, and I think that was enough. So I got that set up on the bike, got the bike set up, I got my shoes and everything set up. I debated on wearing socks or no socks, which later you'll hear I probably should have went no socks. Even though I wasn't intending on racing, I did better than I thought I would, and I decided at the last minute I was going to wear socks for sure because I'm in Ironman training, and I didn't think it would be worth the time and then possibly give myself blisters and mess up my training for the Ironman, the race that I'm actually working towards. So I decided on socks. So I got my socks laid out, everything totally good to go at transition. We made our way over to the pool. So this is a swim. This swim was a 250-yard swim. So a super short swim, super high-paced swim. And it was in a pool that had, I believe, 5 or 6 lanes. I don't remember exactly the way it worked, but either way, it was swimming down and then down and back, down and back, down and back, down and back, and then up and then out of the pool, which I had never done before. I had swam a little bit, really close, going opposite direction to people, but I had never really. The closest thing I'd done to this was just swimming close knit to people in the half Ironman, but that's open water, and you've got plenty of room still to space. If you get towards the edge, you can move away if you need to. This was not that. So I find my new seating. I find my spot where I want to be. I get in line, sit down exactly where I think that I should be sitting, and I get in the spot that I want to be, and they start the swims. So they just literally start in the pool, walk your way to the front, and then the guy starts the timer, you take off, and then you swim. So I get to about halfway, and I run into my first issue on the swim, and it is a person that has something's happened, they seated themselves incorrectly, they misunderstood the way the seating worked. Either way, I got stuck behind somebody. And because the way that these lanes are, you've got one person swimming one way down the same lane, and you have somebody swimming the other way, so you can't just pass somebody, because passing somebody would require you to go in the opposite side of the lane, and you have people constantly swimming that direction. So I get stuck. You can see here, that I get stuck behind this person, and I'm kind of, I don't even really think about it, but I realized looking back at this video that it took a pretty good chunk of time away. I'm swimming and I get stuck behind this person, and eventually we make it to the very end where the wall is, and he realizes that I'm right on him. So luckily, thankfully, he decides, okay, I'm gonna stop and let me go in front. I took this opportunity because my goggles were full of water. These new goggles that I got they don't seal very well at all. So I stopped for a second, I dumped my goggles out for literally 2 seconds, and then I start swimming again. And I think by the time I get to the end of that lane, I'm already stuck behind another person. Maybe it's the beginning of the next lane. Either way, I'm stuck behind another person. And this one is almost worse because it's towards the beginning of the lane now, as you can see here. And I'm trying to cut my way around this person, but I can't because there's people coming the other way. Eventually, I make a dash, and I probably squeeze in a spot where I kind of made the person mad coming the other direction as well, but either way, I did it. And after that, it was pretty smooth sailing until I made it all the way out of the pool. I climbed out of the ladder, made my way out of the door of the indoor pool, and then I ran across the pad outside. So 250 yard swim totaled. So this was from start to outdoors, right before I crossed into T1, which actually right at T1, was 4 minutes and 44 seconds. So I seated myself to finish in about 4 minutes. I think my actual swimming time, not including the time getting out of the pool running to T1, was probably 4 minutes and 10 seconds. So I was pretty close to that. If I hadn't have got slowed down by the people, I think I would have been right at probably 3:45 actually. I was swimming right at a minute 30 pace for the majority of that. So the swim, all things considered, it went well. It could have been worse. I got stuck behind a couple people, but everything went all right. So I rip all my stuff off on my way over to transition 1, and I make my way over to the bike. I did spike my heart rate a little bit. Now, like I said, I was full gas pretty much this entire race, including the swim. I was full gas through the swim over to the bike, out on the bike, everything. I was full gas. But I really spiked my heart rate when I had to pass that girl, because when I passed her, I really had to full chug just to get around. So my heart rate was coming back down, but I wanted to take a breath before I got on the bike, so I didn't just blow my legs up immediately, which I still did, but it's all right. So got my socks on because, once again, I was concerned with my feet getting blistered. I wasn't concerned with the pain. I was concerned with later not being able to train properly for my Ironman. So I put socks on, which took forever because I was in an asphalt parking lot and I was rubbing my feet off, trying to get the rocks out, and it took a lot longer than I wanted to. Throw my helmet on, put my bib on, and I get the bike off. And by the time I hit the next pad to get on the bike, my transition was a minute and 32, which in this tiny little bitty race, that was a ton of time. 1 minute and 32 seconds. I could have shaved a ton of time off of that transition. Number one, had I not put socks on. Number two, had I not been so concerned about the stupid rocks that were going to make it in there. That still made it in there anyway, so it didn't make a difference. So 1 minute 32. And we can remember that 1 minute 32 because that 1 minute 32 will be important at the very end of this, just for another reason as well. So hop on the bike and start making my way. This is a 10-mile bike ride, and for me, with my training that I'm doing right now, 10 miles is pretty much full gas. I can really push on 10 miles, and there wasn't a ton of elevation. The majority of the ride was flat. There was almost 800 feet of elevation, but it was in one climb. It was up a hill and then back down a hill. So then once you finish the course and you're coming back, well, then you have to come back up and then back down that same hill because it's like a big hill like this. So that's where the vast majority of the elevation was. It was flat for the majority until that, and that held a huge, it was gigantic hill on both sides. It was super big. So I make my way, I'm flying all the way through. We hit the first hill, which is not that far in. I think it was about 2 miles, maybe not even that, probably like a mile in. 1 mile in, you hit the first hill, which is the one side of that big hill. And I mean, I slowed down a ton, obviously. I'm really fast in the flat. I'm a big guy. Hills slow me down a ton. So I was dropped all the way down, pretty low gear, and I was making my way up the hill real slow. That's not my specialty by any means. And so finally making it to the top, I am burnt myself at this point because I was all gas just to get up the hill at a reasonable pace. And I make my way all the way down the hill, and I'm flying down the back side of the hill. I think I peaked at like 43 or 44 miles an hour. So I'm scooting down the back side of the hill. Got my aero helmet on, so I'm just hauling down in my biggest gear, pedaling as hard as I can, just scooting down, and no issues all the way down. It is just an out and a back, so make it. I turn around, we come back, and with once again, not many issues. I noticed one thing I was having an issue with a little bit was my visor on my aero helmet. My visor, which I don't know if this is common, if this is normal, if there's some way to combat this, but my visor, I've got a, maybe I'll show this. I've got a clear visor on my aero helmet, and it was fogging up really bad. I was sweating a ton because I was, like I said, I was pouring the coals on. I was full gas, so I was sweating a ton, and my face was really hot. The humidity was crazy, and my head was wet from the swim already. So I mean, it was just a combination of all kind of moisture and heat, and the whole entire visor was fogging up really bad. It didn't get to be a problem in this short of a race, but I have a feeling that it might be a problem if it stays super foggy like that over the course of a full Ironman bike course. So hopefully I can either figure out that was only because of the short distance early morning. Hopefully it would once it warmed up. I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to look into that a little more. But either way, that was really the only issue I ran into until I hit the hill, the big climb on the way back. So now I'm like a mile-ish from the end, 1.5 miles, however, once again, wherever this exactly was, and that's where the big hill is. I am about a quarter of the way up this hill, and I've dropped my big gear, my front where the chain ring is, I drop it into the smaller ring. When I do this, boom, drop my chain. And this hill, I'm telling you, this hill is crazy. Like I said, there's 700, almost like 780, I want to say, right around close to 800 feet of elevation, and the majority of it was this hill. That was almost all of it. So that was a pretty big hill, and it was not a very long hill. It was all within about a quarter mile, so it wasn't even that crazy. It was just steep. It was really all it was just really steep. Make it a little quarter way up this hill. On the way back, boom, drop my chain. I'm like, oh my gosh, you gotta be kidding me. So I try to get my chain over with my thing. I can't. The hill's so steep, I've got to get off the bike because I've lost all my momentum now. If I was on the flat, it might not be as big of a deal. but I've lost all my momentum because it was straight up the hill. So I have to unclip my feet, get off, and I sit there and I'm working on getting my chain back on. It's stuck behind the ring, and I finally get it to where I can get it on and get it spun, and we're back on. And then now I have to clip one foot in and try to start my momentum back up this hill without falling over, which was ridiculous in and of itself. And it takes me a little bit, but eventually I finally get rolling momentum back up this hill and make my way up. I lost probably a minute and a half when I dropped the chain. So that's my approximation. Probably about a minute and a half by the time I stopped, got the chain back on, got rolling, and my momentum loss probably about a minute to a minute and a half. Which, let's remember that time as well. A minute and a half there will be very important later. So finally, like I said, I make it to the top of the hill and I haul back down again. This is the other side of the hill, so now this hill is also super steep on the way down. So I haul again. I'm able to get all the way up to probably 43 miles an hour, I think was my peak, like I said. So I make my time up down the big hill at least. I say that. I make some time up down the big hill. And it's funny because that actual that segment on Strava, apparently that's a segment on Strava, and I have I hold the speed record on that segment on Strava for this year. I'm actually 8th overall of all time. I was, I think, like a third of a mile an hour off of first place, but I was hauling. Like I'm telling you, I was cooking down this hill especially once I came down from throwing my chain off. But it flustered me. So I get all the way down, and then I get all the way down, and I make my way back around about a mile, like I said, a mile and a half, whatever it was, back to the transition. Rip my way into the transition. At this point, I'm feeling good, even though I got kind of upset about throwing my chain off because I was moving. At this point, I was feeling good. I was feeling like I was moving pretty fast. So I make my way into transition. I have a good transition here. So I make my way into transition, and so the bike is over at 31 minutes and 57 seconds. So I would have been obviously a little quicker if I hadn't dropped the chain, but it is what it is. I'm pulling to transition, and I have a quick transition this time. All I did was I take my shoes off, take my helmet off really fast. I already had my belt on, so all I had to do was just put my shoes on and hook the bike, hang the bike up and all that. So this transition 2 was 50 seconds. And honestly, I could have probably spent just as long on the first transition had I really thought about it. I could have knocked the 42 seconds off on the first one and really only spent 50 seconds in transition, which in a sprint is a big percentage of your race. That's a much higher percentage than in like an Ironman, so it was important for me to be fast. I say fast. This was still a training triathlon for me. I'm just really competitive. So I transition 50 seconds, so a lot quicker on this one, and I feel pretty good. I get my stuff on, get my hat on, glasses, ready to roll, and I make my way out, and I make my way out of transition towards the exit. Make my way out of the exit, and I run around. It goes up a hill and then down a big long hill, which is the big hill that you come up on your way back in. And really, nothing super eventful on the run. My run was, I felt pretty decent. My heart rate, my legs felt great, but my heart rate was still pumping. I was, like I said, my heart rate was the entire time. I was just redlined the entire race. I'm redlined for the entire race. It's pretty much the entire way down, the first mile, because it's a 2-mile course. So this run is 2 miles. Like I said, it's a super sprint. It's a 2-mile course. So the first mile is just a there and back. So the first mile is mostly downhill. It's rolling. The whole thing is rolling, but it's a gradual downhill on average. So it was a little bit easier on the way out. I turn around, and by this point, I'm getting a little hot. It's getting a little hotter outside. My body's getting a little hot. So I get a couple of waters. They had an aid station at the 1 mile mark. I throw the waters on myself, and I feel a lot better. Cooled me down, got me where I feel like I can kind of push a little bit harder again. And so turn around and make my way back. And once again, the way back is rolling, so it's still up and down, but on average, it's uphill. So the second mile was definitely harder than the first mile. And I could feel that in my heart rate too. My heart rate was even higher at this point. And I make my way all the way around, all the way up, all the way loop around back into finish. And I'm feeling good because the very end towards the finish line, slightly downhill, so I can run pretty good. Crossed the finish line, and I was pretty satisfied with my time, and I had absolutely no thought of being, I don't know, I knew I was running pretty good, but I didn't think that I was going to be anywhere in placement at all. My total run time was 18 minutes and 23 seconds. Yeah, so 18 minutes, 23 seconds for the total run. So finish across the line. I go over, meet my coworker. He had finished first. He started his swim a good bit before me as well. I think we had pretty close total times. I think I was like a couple minutes slower than he was, but we had pretty close times. I meet up with him, my wife, and we talk about it for a little bit. My wife pulls up the results, and she sees, hey, you are podiumed right now. And I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. So for me, as a person that my whole life I've been a pretty big husky dude, I've never been fast, I've never been able to do like endurance stuff, to hear, hey, you're podium right now, I'm like, what are you talking about? There's no possible way. What do you mean? How did that even possibly happen? And so I pull it up and I look and I'm like, oh wow, I'm in third place for my age group. And I'm 28, so my age group is one of the faster age groups in the sprint triathlon. So I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So I look and I am right at, I think, 15 seconds. I have to look. I think I was right at 15 seconds behind second place. First place was a couple minutes ahead, so they were a solid mark ahead. Probably, I think, 2 to 3 minutes ahead of me, and then second place was probably 15 seconds ahead of me, and then I was in third. And where I had gone, the majority of people had already come through that were fast, because most people seated in front of me. I still seated myself back a little bit in the swim, so most of the faster people had already come through. So I was excited. I'm like, oh wow, I might get to stand on a podium and get a little trophy for the literal first time in my life, even though it was just a super sprint triathlon at the local neighborhood or whatever. I was excited. I was thrilled. So we're sitting there waiting, and I'm like, well, there's still a possibility that somebody either seated themselves wrong or they just started later and they were really fast or whatever it might be. So so we're sitting there kind of waiting, just keeping an eye on the results and stuff, just to see, because I was excited to possibly podium in anything. For me, this was just like, oh, this is so cool. After about 20 or 30 minutes of waiting, apparently somebody seated themselves really late that was around my speed, and the time comes in at 6 seconds faster than me, bumping me down to fourth place in my age group, which is sickening. I was not exactly thrilled about that, just because I was so excited to be podiumed on my age group. But either way, it did knock me down. The reason I was so upset about it was because I looked and I'm like, all right, I was 2-ish minutes behind first place. I was 15 seconds behind second place, and then I was 6 seconds behind third. I had a drop chain that I lost probably a minute to a minute and a half, and then I had a long T1. If I hadn't dropped the chain, first of all, I would have guaranteed second place, which sucks really bad, because if for something like getting caught behind somebody in the swim, it doesn't really bother me because that's like part of the racing, which I understand dropping a chain is as well. But getting stuck behind somebody in the swim, that doesn't feel as upsetting to me because once again, that's part of racing, is getting around people. Dropping a chain, it's just kind of disheartening because it was an equipment malfunction. It wasn't something that I did. It wasn't something somebody else did. It was my equipment that just decided that it wasn't to participate that day. And I was also a little upset at myself because I could have been faster in T1. I could have definitely been 6 seconds faster and still podiumed if I had not put my socks on, number one, or if I had just done it a little faster, not knocked rocks off my feet 14 times before I put my socks on. So I could have podiumed if I just transitioned faster, or if my chain hadn't dropped. Either way, I was happy with that. So total time was 57 minutes and 28 seconds. I almost podiumed. I was this close, but I still had a absolute load of fun. This was super, super fun. Like I said, this is totally different from my training. It was really, really fast, really, really just pushing. So it was a ton of fun. I came in 24th overall. So the age group above me, I think, was a slightly faster age group. 24th overall in the whole group. I think there was about 200, 190, 198, something like that. I don't remember exactly how many there were. 24th overall for the whole race, and it was a ton of fun. I will absolutely be doing some more sprint triathlons. It was a blast. It's easy time-wise. You don't have to spend a ton of time. It doesn't take that long while you're there. There's not that much prep in comparison to something like an Ironman. It is really just not as nearly as time-consuming. It doesn't destroy your whole day. We got to wake up early. We had a good time in the race. My daughter, I think she had fun watching all the people on the bike and running everything, and we had a great time. After the race, we went and had a wonderful post-race breakfast. I got at one of our favorite breakfast locations. I got some chicken biscuits with it comes like some hot honey and some home fries, and super great. It was phenomenal. But yeah, so that was my first sprint triathlon. I guess super sprint triathlon. It wasn't even a sprint triathlon, and I had a blast. It was super fun. We had a great day, and I will absolutely be doing that again for sure. This was one of the most fun things I've ever done, and like I said, I will 100% be participating in a sprint triathlon again. If you've made it to this point, thank you. It would mean a ton if you enjoy this and you want to see some more. You maybe want to see me. I'm working towards racing an Ironman this September, so I'm just a few weeks out from that in reality. Subscribe to the channel. You'll get notifications. I'm going to be posting videos, and I'm going to make a great big video on the actual race day on Ironman this year, and a bunch of other stuff. I'm doing just my regular daily workouts and whatnot, and then after the Ironman, I'm going to be doing probably some ultramarathon stuff. So if you enjoyed the video, click the like button. I realize now that you have to request that people actually click the button, because if you don't, then they don't. And I mean, I guess that's fine. I don't either. I don't think about it unless somebody reminds me. So if you did stick here for this whole video, click the like button and then click the subscribe button, because I would rather do this full time than anything. So that would be sick. So do that for me, and then I'll make videos for you. All right?